Let's stay with business analysis back. Hello.
Hello to you both. And let's stick with those job numbers because unemployment has indeed fallen by 14,000 in the final quarter of last year to 2.5 million, 156,000 lower than a year ago. Well, the number of people claiming job seekers allowance has fallen to a near two-year low, falling by 12,500 to 1.54 million in January. But youth unemployment increased by some 11,000, and that's the highest rise that we've seen for a year. Well, Dr. John Philpott is a director of the Jobs Economist, and he gave us his reaction to those numbers.
We have a flexible labour market in the UK, and that's helping us to keep unemployment down. I mean, the numbers that we're seeing today are very strong in terms of employment, and all the employment growth is full-time. Where we're seeing the weakness in the labour market, and this reflects the weakness in the economy, is on the pay side of the equation. People are having to price themselves into jobs. It makes employing people cheaper for employers, and essentially what's happening is the economy is producing the same amount of output with far more people. That's called falling productivity. It's good in the short run as an alternative to unemployment. Over the longer run, however, you want the kind of economy that's creating jobs, seeing productivity growing, and importantly, seeing people's real pay packets expanding.
Dr. John Philpott there. Now, Bank of England Governor Sir Mervyn King was one of 3 Monetary Policy Committee members today to vote in favour of more stimulus measures this month. Well, minutes of the MPC's meeting showed that it voted 6-3 against expanding the quantitative easing programme from its current level of £375 billion. Well, the pound fell sharply against other currencies following the release of those minutes. Now, another 464 jobs are to go at failed music chain HMV after administrators announced the closure of a further 37 stores. Deloitte said these shops would close over the next 4 to 6 weeks and would probably lead to all affected staff being made redundant, although it would try to relocate employees to other shops where possible. Now, the amount of money being lent to UK home buyers fell last month. That's according to figures from the Council of Mortgage Lenders. New mortgage lending amounted to £10.4 billion in January. Those are the lowest figures that we've seen since April 2012. It represents a fall of some 9% compared with December, but the CML said that sentiment was still positive and expected matters to improve over the coming months. Well, Bernard Clark is from the Council of Mortgage Lenders, and he joins me live now. Do these numbers come as something of a disappointment for you after those figures we had out from the Bank of England recently, suggesting that the housing market was beginning to pick up?
No, they're not really a disappointment because the January figures nearly always show a decline in activity from the more buoyant and active months in autumn in the preceding period. They of course reflect activity in the housing market in the run-up to Christmas when both buyers and sellers are beginning to wind down. So we are expecting the housing market and mortgage lending to pick up this year with about an 8% increase in gross lending over the course of 2013.
Because also only last week your organisation released figures showing that the number of first-time buyers was up.
Yes, that's right, and that's part of the encouraging picture. And the bank data showed that 90% mortgages, it showed that some data in December showing that 90% mortgages were lower in price by around 30 basis points. These, of course, are the types of mortgages that first-time buyers take out. So this is all part of the encouraging picture about improved mortgage pricing and availability.
So you say that these latest figures show that mortgage lending is at its lowest number since April 2012, belies the underlying positive picture, and yet we are seeing falling house prices across the UK, particularly in Wales. Does this suggest that some of the money we're expecting to see trickle through from the funding to lending scheme isn't actually getting to where it's needed?
Well, the signs are that it's getting through to where it's needed in the mortgage market, but clearly we have an overall housing market across the UK that varies quite spectacularly in its levels of performance. But there are encouraging signs for increased lending activity this year, and it's part of a pattern of slow and steady recovery. It's not going to be fireworks, but we do expect things to get better over the course of 2013.
Sticking with the theme of first-time buyers, as a result of this funding for lending scheme, we've already seen lots of building societies and banks lower their rates, but the issue still remains that a large deposit is still required to qualify for these lower rates.
Well, that's generally true, but as I said to you, the Bank of England data shows that the rates on 90% mortgages, which are of course the ones taken out by first-time buyers, have been falling. So there is a gradual improvement in the availability of mortgages at higher loan-to-value. Of course, most of the effects have come through on more creditworthy borrowers taking out loans for a lower value of the property, but there is some signs of improvement for higher LTV borrowing.
Bernard Clark from the Council for Mortgage Lenders, many thanks for those thoughts. OK, let's have a quick look at how markets are getting on this morning. And the FTSE has nudged above that 6,400 mark. We haven't seen that since 2008. And that's on the back of those minutes from the Bank of England suggesting that we might be in store for some more quantitative easing. A different picture across Europe, slightly more muted as markets there consolidate gains that were made in the previous rally. And as we were saying, on the back of that news from the Bank of England, the pound has dropped against the dollar. That's all from me. Juliet will be with you for all the latest business throughout the afternoon.
Alice, thanks
Many
very
thanks.
much. Well, let's stay